What's up, guys? It's Matt Jackson and Clay Smith, and we are the Wash Bros. Welcome to the 6th episode of our second season here. For you guys watching live now, you know that we're in about the middle of March now. So this is when we're starting to roll into our busy season. And for this episode, we find it appropriate to talk about goal setting and how we will break it down and essentially saying like goal setting for greatness. Let's be cheesy here, but this is the time where we make our money and how we split up our days and our months and our weeks to really grind and kill those goals for March. And that sets us up for our entire year. So you want to kick this thing off, Clay?
As always, it's a pleasure. First and foremost, thank you everyone who follows us on all of our pages: Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook. I think I already said Facebook, but anyways, we appreciate all the support. We see all your downloads. We see everybody that is tagging along on this journey with us and learning from us and that type of thing. So setting ourselves up for success. We kind of went over that on the last episode, but this episode, we're going to kind of talk about the numbers. How do we hit the numbers that we hit? If anybody has listened to us, we kind of go over every now and then, hey, I hit this number or I hit that number. And biggest thing is always say consistency. So you got to be consistent in your marketing. You got to be consistent in your relationships. You got to be consistent in the numbers that you're trying to put together, and it will all come together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Consistency, especially when we start to get busy. This is where you start to see people, they start out really hot because it's cold. They spend a lot of money on advertising. They're getting the ball rolling with filling up their schedule, and then they get busy. And then they're like, oh, I don't need to run ads anymore. I don't need to keep consistency with this marketing that has been getting me jobs. And then so they get their schedule full. They're backed up. They're in the middle of March, April, May. And then they slowly start losing that momentum and, like you were saying, that consistency with their leads. And by the time it's midsummer, they're wondering why they're slow and they're dead. And so like that consistency that Clay is talking about is what set him up when he was running ads in November and December when everybody was doing Christmas lights and everybody was slow. The pressure washing, and they weren't focused on pressure washing. We were grinding and pushing those ads out. So now we're starting to see the benefits of like, whoa, people have been seeing us for the last 3 months. And it's important, the consistency, that we stay on it through the busy season and not just say, oh, I'm full of leads now. I don't need to be consistent with marketing. So it's super important that we set our goals up to really kill the year. And this being spring, this is like the most important time of year to be really on it and really consistent with our goals. And so I guess, how do you break down a monthly goal or a weekly goal, or you have a big number you want to hit this year? How do you go about doing it so you know that you have a plan?
So basically what we do, and I know that me and you talk amongst ourselves about this as well, is you need to figure out what your time's worth. So you figure out what your time's worth, first of all, and then you figure out how much do I need to make a day per truck. And then you figure out all your cost and all that kind of stuff you want to do your revenue. You want to know how much you're making per truck after all your cost, because you can make $1,500 a day, but if you're spending $1,500 a day to make it, then you're not making any money. And I think that's what gets me with a lot of the gurus and the guys that they just have a great presence online. We get to following those guys and we see that they're doing like $300,000 a year. Well, how much are they making off of that number? Because that's, at the end of the day, that's why we do it. If you're not making any money, then what are we doing here? So you want to set yourself up, and this is what I do during the slow season, is I make sure I set myself up to be successful. So as I go back to what I've said before, you set yourself up for the spring and the winter, and you set yourself up for the winter and the spring. So you sit back and you look and you go ahead and you market this stuff out, and you figure out, okay, I can put this much money here, this much money there, this much money there, and then I should be good. If I can consistently do that, then I'll eventually get to my goal. But with the revenue part, our monthly revenue, basically we have a target per truck, which is minimum $1,500 a day per truck. So we'll go off of one truck numbers here. $1,500 a day per truck would be at $7,500 a week. So if I could work a 5-day week, $1,500 a day, did I do my math right?
Yeah.
7,500. Okay.
Yeah.
$1,500 a day, 5 days a week. That's $7,500 a week. 7,500 on a four-week month. What are we looking at? 30 grand.
Yeah. And then to say there's like 4 weeks. This is a more simple math here. If you're doing $1,500 a truck a day and you're working 5 days a week, and there's 4 weeks, say there's 4 weeks. So 4 times 5, that's 20. You're working 20 days a week at $1,500. There's your $30,000 a month. So
it's simple. It's simpler than you think it really is. And if you can hit those minimum numbers that you put your your goals in place with those simple numbers, we hit a $50,000 month last year with one truck pretty much. So it's very easy, it's very attainable, and a lot of people probably don't believe me when I say that, but it's easier than you think it is. You just have to work for it. And one of the things I do is I work until it's done. You know, if that's still dark, I'm working. I get up, I leave at 6:30 in the morning, and sometimes I'm not home till 8:30 at night. And that's what it takes. If you're just wanting to do this for freedom, you're not going to hit the big numbers,
It's very true.
especially by yourself.
Yeah. Clay does this by himself, so he has to be a lot more accountable to like the grind of like, hey, this one truck, if I'm pushing $1,700 a day on average or $2,000 a day on this one truck, then I'm gonna have to be on that grind. But you can also divvy it out, say you have another truck. And again, this is where numbers are important because anybody can say, oh, we're putting up $50,000 a month in revenue. But if you look at them and they've got 3 trucks and they've got 2 techs per truck, they ain't making any money. So that's where the math is important, that we know our cost of doing the business too. So 50K by yourself, you are just destroying it. And you got 3 trucks at 50K, you need to figure something out because that's probably not as profitable as you think. And
You definitely put a lot of money in your pocket doing it yourself, but you got to be willing to do the work as well.
yeah, I was going over my taxes this past year. Actually, not this past year. The 2024 taxes, I've been going over it and looking at my numbers. So if you guys don't have QuickBooks set up and if you guys aren't looking at your numbers and standing the reporting of, they say we did a $72,000 month last May. That was 2 trucks, pretty heavy, and we did some sealing in the mix too. I looked at my group net profitability off of that month, and I think we pulled $35,000. So that was like 50% of what we were doing is what we made. So I was even going through, and I guess the point of all this is the importance of this time of year for us is with 2 trucks maxing out $60,000 to $70,000 a month, we're able to make $100,000 in profit from April, May, and June. And then it starts to slow down a little bit with the profitability. So it's really important, especially if you have crews, that you're like completely maxing out this time of year because that's where most of your profit's going to be in. The rest of the year, it's more of a maintenance mode. Say our profitability on the trucks are like $10,000 a month for our month. If we're doing like 40,000, 35 to 40,000, we're probably making like $10,000 a month off of that. But the bread and butter is going to be this time of year. So it's super important that if we're using multiple crews and multiple trucks, that we are like maxing out our day rate for those trucks and we're not just killing time and having a lot of expenses because those can quickly add up and drain you. And then you get used to spending a certain amount of money and you got good revenue so you can float that. But when the slower season comes or you're only doing $35,000 a month, those expenses will eat you up very quickly. So one of the
Yeah,
learning
100,
lessons that I've
100%.
had with, okay, you got great momentum, but if you lay off the throttle of marketing, if you lay off the gas, you still got this overhead that you have to cover and keep your guys busy. And yeah, you can keep guys busy, but it's going to cost you money if you're not super busy and you're just paying guys extra and you're losing profit. So it's super important that we know our numbers and aren't just reflecting on our revenue because they say revenue is vanity metric and profit is your sanity.
Absolutely. You definitely got to maximize your opportunities with the guys that you have. And that's kind of the problem I'm having now. Everybody wants to work part time. They don't want to work full time. So as soon as I find a good full time guy, solid full time guy, we do have something in the works with a full time guy now. But if you have any interest in working with me, if anybody's listening in the upstate South Carolina area, it's March 2025 and I need help. So if you have any interest in mentorship and maybe want to work with me and my company, please reach out. You can find me via Facebook or email me at gmail at my c3pressure at gmail.com. Be happy to speak with you, see what we can work out with you. But yeah, maximizing opportunities to the people you have is very, very crucial. And that's something that I'm actually trying to figure out myself this year because I'm wanting to do the 2 truck thing and see what kind of big number we can hit. Hey, if we can hit that $100,000 month, that would be awesome. But I think I'm still a couple years away from that. But hey, it could happen.
No doubt, yeah, and it just opens it up, and then the cool thing about this too is, and we'll bring seasonal people in to help out. So it's not like, oh man, I did $300,000 solo. I don't want to bring another truck in and say, okay, maybe we did $400,000, but then I got this overhead that I got to carry throughout the year. As long as you're lean and mean about going about purchasing things and don't have a lot of debt over your head, you just have the truck sitting in your shop and get somebody on it from the spring and early summer, and then you're making all the money, and then it can go back to just sitting there in the shop. That's kind of what will fluctuate back and forth. And kind of the slower part of the season or like the fall and the winter, we're running 1 truck maxed out as opposed to having to have 2 trucks on the road and all that extra overhead.
all the extra overhead and gas and all that mess. I think I burn about 7 gallons of gas a day in my pressure washer. We have 4 units with our company, but only one of them's being used. So I'm like, man, if I could just have all of them running at once, but you definitely got to have the workload there. And then if you put 4 people on the workload that we have now, you're not going to make any money. So we can eventually get there. It sucks having all that equipment sitting there, but glad I'm in the position to have them there in case I need them.
Yep. Because you never know when you get big opportunities come to you and you need to pull resources. And hey, buddy, you want to be on the pressure washer today? I don't care if you don't know what you're doing. I'll show you how to do it, and you'll be an extra truck. Like
Yeah, I just
we've
need you
done
to
that a
rent
few
some stuff.
times. Yeah, it's like, hey, just run the surface cleaner for 50,000 square feet. I'll be over here.
And I think that's what's coming clutch on me is just having these part-time guys that halfway know what they're doing and that I need help with on these commercial jobs because I can knock the residential out pretty quick up by myself. It's just when you get to that point where you're 2 weeks out, it's just nice to. It's going to be nice to have someone there to pick up these last-minute customers that want a job done tomorrow.
Yep. That and yeah, again, I find I never want to get past 2 weeks because you start getting past 2 weeks and there's a reason people slow down their marketing because they're just throwing money away when, oh yeah, put me on the schedule. And then all of a sudden they call and cancel because they found somebody who can get it done quicker. And I think that's what the problem is of these owner operator types who aren't super efficient like you are, Clay, where they're like, oh, I'm booked out till May or I'm booked out till June. I'm like, that's not a flex. There's no way that you're going to be able to grow a business when you're booking out that far. And there's no hate on anybody who's doing that. It's just the level of drop off of customers you're going to have is going to be huge. And if we're able to do $70,000 in the month of May and make $35,000 off of that, there's a huge opportunity cost for us if we're saying, oh, we're already booking out to May or we're already booking out to June. And then you're missing out on all that money. So that's our reasoning for this time of year. Be super aggressive with growth, have our team. We're working 5 days, 6 days a week with 2 trucks, and we're making majority of our money in this next 3 months.
Yeah, if you really want to make money in this business, you need to maximize your opportunities. I know I've said that 100,000 times on this one episode, but maximize your opportunities during the season because come December, November, January, you're not really going to be doing anything. Like you can rest in those months, and that's kind of my philosophy is I can work hard now, and then I'm not going to work for 2 or 3 months out of the year. And that's kind of like what I've struggled with. I'm trying to sink into these full time guys is, hey, we only work 10 months out of the year. So work hard now, save your money, and then chill out. You get a 2 month vacation.
Exactly. And then that's another thing too. We have it structured. I got a guy, my full-time guy, Ryan. He time, but I'd say from middle of December to middle of January, not much work. But 11 months out of the year, you're making in the good season, you're making a minimum of $1,000, average of probably 12 to 1,500 bucks a week. And that's
A
pretty,
minimum.
that's like a minimum, depending on how hard he wants to work. And that's almost how you have to set up. You're like, man, I'm paying out all this money out. I'm like, yeah, but if he's getting 20% of the revenue generated, you're making 80% of not doing the work. And then you get another guy out there, and then you're, as Clay saying, hey, you're doing, instead of having to like hustle sun up to sundown by yourself, you got 2 guys running for you, and it's costing you 20%. So if they're making you $10,000 a week and you're paying out $1,000 each one of those guys, there's $8,000 a week coming into you with 2 trucks. And I mean, it may not be the next growth stage that helped us because even when it felt like spring was super crazy numbers wise, we were still making good profitability just because there's so much work to be had and so much work out there. And when you're paying employees 20%, you can kind of do the math on everything and say, oh, wow, like we're all winning in this game. If you want to make 1,500 bucks this week, you're going to grind a huge number, like $7,500 a week. And then combined, we're going to be doing $15,000 a week on our businesses. And then I'm going to be making off of that, I'm going to be making $12,000 in profit.
Yeah, we do this. We do this to make money. We don't do it to lose money. So numbers are so easy. Like it's so much easier than you think. You see a big number, and it's actually easier to achieve than it's not. And the $1,500 minimum, that's very doable and very easy in the spring season for sure.
Yeah, we've definitely shifted more towards, and our average ticket is probably like 520 to 560. So we try to win what we can, but it's not worth our time anymore to show up for $300. Because to me, if we're shooting for that $1,500 target, that's 4 stops, 4.5 stops, 5 stops for an employee. And that's going to be an entire day with traffic and setup time and all that. So if like when you're running and you got multiple guys out there, I find with an employee, it's way more efficient just to charge a little bit more money and have them out there for 3 jobs as opposed to have to scurry them around town, and they're getting stressed. They're shortcutting because they're like, man, I'm working all day long, and an employee is going to be a little different than you or me if we're running a truck all day long. So it's important that we like manage their emotion and their health, because there'll be days where it's hot and then they're like, oh, I just can't do this last job today. I need to push it to the next day. And that can be frustrating if you don't have it set up correctly with having the right help, and almost providing space and buffer for our guys to like be human, and hey, look, man, if 5 o'clock and you're like, I can't go to the next job, I'm not going to scream at them. We're gonna
Right.
we're gonna have to fit something in the schedule, and the margin comes by having extra help where we can just move a job here and there.
Scheduling is definitely a big deal. You got to make sure that you're good at that stuff because I think one day, what was it last week or not last week, last month, I had a job up in the mountains and it was a 2 hour drive to my next one. Like, what was I thinking? 2 hours from my next stop, and I had 3 stops that day. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
nuts.
scheduling can definitely screw you up if you're not paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you don't really take a lunch break, and I didn't really either. But an employee's gonna take a lunch
Protein
break.
bars.
Yeah, an employee's gonna be like, well, I'm gonna stop and get something for 30 minutes. And even if you don't tell them that, they're gonna bake it in because hey, that's just what they do. And you can't
It's an
kill your
employee
guys.
mindset, which there's nothing wrong with it, but it's an employee mindset versus a hustler and owner mindset.
Yeah, and little things like that you kind of learn as you go, and you have employees and a team. And like I remember the first year I had Ryan, my guy, who's great. He was like super gung ho, money motivated, and but he also didn't have a kid, and then he had a kid last year, so he's got a young
Now
kid
he's not
now.
motivated.
Well,
He's
yeah,
not money motivated.
he's like, oh, I can do a $1,200 day, but I'm not going to be working until 7 p.m. So I had to adjust stuff and say, all right, well, I got to raise my ticket prices. I got to try to bundle a service. If we were normally just doing the house in the driveway, let's throw the windows on to get an extra $100 here and there. So it's one less stop. And it's kind of always being able to change to keep up with the times, because I was looking at my costs are going up. So it's important that this year we make sure that we're not charging people the same as we were previously, and eating that expense, because I remember in 2020, like my bleach cost was 90 cents a gallon, and now it's like $3.
$5.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, it's like 350 or something like that, something crazy. And
Shoot, I
you don't
believe we pay $5 a gallon.
something huge.
It's 220 for me for a 55-gallon drum. So whatever that math is.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'm trying to do the math on that. Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's not fun.
the number game, the numbers, it's a very easy game, and it's just a little formula. Just write it out on paper. Say if you want to make, depending on how big your company is, if you're a one-man show or a two-man show, you can always start small and do it at a smaller scale. And then once you realize it's so much easier, you just kind of keep bumping yourself up. But I'm not happy unless I get that $1,500 a day average minimum on my truck. So if I can exceed that, I'm happy. I'm jumping up and down and giggling about it.
Yeah. I'd say, yeah, on our end, we average, but sometimes we work 6 days a week. Like we have employees. So if we work like a 6 day a week and say we're doing like 2750 a day, say there's like say you got a truck running $1,200, one's running like $1,500, it all kind of averages out. But again, this is the time of year you get so much volume where it's like, how can you service customers? You get the repeats all come in, and then you're like, you look at your schedule and we're like, oh, cool, we're always at about $30,000 in like scheduled work, just because I mean, it sounds like a big number, but two
Really
trucks, you're
not.
running 2 weeks at $30,000,
You
and
soak up that work very fast.
soak it up
And
very
I learned
quickly.
that running. Yeah, I learned that running 2 trucks last year for a little bit.
Yeah,
You soak that work up really, really fast. You're like, where'd all my work?
exactly. You got to be on it, and that's why it's super important to keep the pedal down with running ads and marketing. And as you get these two trucks, and you're like, oh, this is great, and then you're like, wait, I need to have a week and a half or 2 weeks of two trucks running full throttle. Otherwise, my guys are going to be like, cool, boss, what do we got on the schedule today? And they're like, oh wait, I don't have enough for you guys. I'm not going to lay you off. So like, you almost have to make them busy, keep them busy doing stuff if you're not
Yeah, hey, get
constantly
out here and weed
pushing.
eat my yard.
Yeah. It's like there's only so many times they can pressure wash my house. I've done that a few times.
Yeah,
I'm like, you can pressure wash my house for like $100. I don't care.
right. Yeah, keep on. Yeah, you want to learn how to wash a roof? Come here. Yeah, definitely. And then another thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was health. I know we talked about it a couple of times in the episode. I got dehydrated one time. I think that was 3 years ago doing this, trying to heal myself, trying to be Superman. And that is not what you want to do. I do not advise it. Make sure you're staying hydrated. The weather, the heat will get you quicker because obviously you stay wet all day during the day of pressure washing. You will get dehydrated. Basically, when that water hits you and that sun hits you, you're gonna that water evaporates off of you, so it only makes you hotter. You're just not realizing it at the time. So make sure every time you walk to the truck, you take a big gulp of something.
True. Yeah. And wear your sunscreen.
And your sunscreen. I'm bad about the sunscreen part because I like a tan, but I'm already getting a little tan here this year with the little bit of psycho weather that we've been having. Should be starting to pick up soon. I believe this is a great episode. We've hit a lot of good topics. The lead flow should be coming in here crazy. I know I've seen a little bit of pattern here in the last couple of weeks, and we're staying pretty busy now. Ready for a consistent lead flow for sure.
Yep. Yeah. It is the best time of year. I'm excited because it just seems like everything's finally hitting. All that effort that we put in to keep advertising flowing the whole year, the whole winter, and then when it just finally people are like, okay, we're ready, we're ready. We've been seeing your ads for the last 6 months, and then it just becomes like, how can I throw all hands on deck on getting trucks out there, making sure trucks are running, making sure hoses aren't blown, make sure employees are able to show up and do jobs, and then it becomes a game of like make sure there's no callbacks. So it's a different beast. It's like, congrats, you graduated to the point of now you got to make sure that all this busy work is being done correctly, and you almost have to have a management role in maintaining that reputation at that point. It's like reputation and time management. Those are the two like stressors of this time of year for us.
Consistently do quality work, consistently hit your numbers, consistently get those 5-star reviews, and you'll be good.
Yep. Exactly. And it is funny too because we all love to get our Google reviews, but the problem I'm running into is like you get Google reviews and then your regulars are in, and then so the Google reviews are just like the same person editing their review. So it's like, okay, they're
Yep.
not necessarily adding to the ticker of how many reviews you got. It's just like, oh, we've used them since 2017. He's great. I was like, that's five
You got to
missed
make sure.
opportunities.
I know you gotta get those new customers in too, for sure.
Yep, yep. So or like if you're doing commercial, like that's never going to be a review. So it's all
Unless you build a good relationship with the decision maker that you're working with.
exactly, yeah. And then once you get one review from them, it's like, oh, you may give me 100 grand to work, but if there's only one point of contact, I'm only going to get one review. So
Right.
this is a
But
great time of year. Just make sure what you guys did to get yourselves here, as far as the marketing, the pushing, you continue it through the season, so you're not in the middle of June and July when that spring rush kind of dies off and that middle of the summer heat comes. You guys aren't begging for work. Clay always says you got to plan like 3 months, 6 months in advance when it comes to whatever you're doing today.
yeah, I'm just now seeing results of stuff that I did 3 months ago. So I mean that I think that's the biggest part of success, especially in this business because it's so seasonal. You got to be working, always working, and looking ahead. Because if you're not, all you're doing is going to be spinning your tires. If you're doing this, and I know everybody has different goals. It's not a knock to anybody, but if you're in this business to do 8 to 10 grand a month, you're not. I don't think you're pushing to your fullest potential. It's very easy to do 15, 20 grand a month. And if you're having any issues getting there, fill out our form on powerwashcoach.com. Be happy to give you a couple pointers and see and maybe answer a couple questions for you. Fill out the form on powerwash.com. There'll be a form there. Me and Matt will get your information. We'll kind of reach out, so what you may be struggling with, see if we can't help you out a little bit.
That's true. Yeah. A lot of times it's just a minor tweak. And then this time of year, you're just not putting yourself out there the right way. And then it is nuts. You got people who have no business running a business making $15,000 a month just because it's the season. And it could be something as simple as posting on Facebook groups or positioning yourself a certain way. And all of a sudden the phone will start ringing and you start getting calls. A lot of times we see guys, they're struggling, and they're struggling because they're not doing something correctly. So it could be an easy tweak, whether it be just like something they do on social media for free, something they do on Google My Business. Not everything requires big, heavy investments. And we both started bootstrapped. We both started without a huge bunch of money that we pulled into this. And we've been able to grow it to successful businesses where you put your business and my business together, and we're taking probably $1 million in revenue out of the market. So we both are big players in our area, and we didn't do it by just dumping a ton of money into it. We did it by growing it the right way, growing it organically, and building the reputation. And we were able to do so in a fast amount of time. So, like
And
Clay
learn from the
says,
bad days.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, definitely got to learn from the bad days. I used to have bad days. I blow out and it ruined my whole day, but now it's just a little minor thing nowadays. Learn from the bad days, soak it in, figure out what's going wrong, whatever. And that I think that's been the best times of my business because I've learned so much through all that bull crap. You may think it's ruining your life at the moment, but soak it in, love it, and just learn from it. And I think that's what's made a lot of me and my company and what they are today.
yep. And what you were stressed out about 6 months ago is no longer going to stress you out now, or especially 6 months from now. So whatever you're focused on now that's scaring you or you're upset about, or you're like, oh man, I don't know. Think in 6 months, you're not even going to think about it. Like stuff changes so fast, so often, and you grow as a person. I remember like being so like, oh man, I can't hire anybody. I got to do this myself. And then I had a guy on, and now I'm like, cool. It's 2 years in and getting good reviews, growing the business. Like people are able to do stuff. So if you're like your BHAG, if you're like scared of making that move to either go full time, like it's a lot easier than you think. And you're in your own way usually about stuff. Or say you're bringing on a new guy and you've never had an employee before. Bring that guy on. What's the worst that can happen? You have to go back and touch up some things. I mean, like a lot of times, like the act of thinking about doing something is scarier than actually doing it itself. And if you push yourself and put yourself in the hole where, like Clay was saying, man, today's a terrible day, everything's going wrong. Like you get used to that, and then it's no longer a negative, and then that's growth. And then you say, oh, cool, my truck just had this issue. I know how to fix it. Or like, oh, the O-ring is gone. I know how to put a new O-ring in. Or, oh, a hose blew. I have a replacement for the hose. Like what used to wreck a day is now whatever, business is normal.
Yeah,
Fix it,
what
move
used to
on.
wreck a day is now a 5 or 10 minute fix.
Exactly. I remember I had a brand new machine, employee backed it up, and there was a unloader that was sticking off the pump, and he hit a tree with it, and it snapped the unloader and the male bar off of the pump. So brand new Honda GX690, 8 gallon minute machine, $4,000 machine, not 10 hours on it. Our cross threaded the pump. Of course, you
Hell
call the
yeah.
vendor, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you just need a new pump on that." And I'm like, "What?" Internally, I'm like, okay, my employees here, we got a big day ahead of us. We got a full week booked. I can't drop everything and have this machine replaced, and I don't want to spend $4,000 to fix a machine that's perfectly fine. So we just threw a bunch of Teflon tape on it, shoved it in there, and we're on our way. Meanwhile, didn't blow up on my employee. I was like, well, shit happens. Well, let's figure this out. Let's not get upset. And we're able to just throw a ton of tape on it. There's a little drip, and we're off to the races. So that would have been something
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago. I would have been like, I got to call and cancel these. I got to cancel these jobs. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to go do this. I got to make some like impulsive, rash move. But the longer you're in this game, the easier it gets. The easier your threshold is of like overcoming failure or whatever. Failure? The only thing I believe failure is quitting, anyways. So it's like
100%, brother.
everything can be overcome, and the longer you're in it, the easier it is.
Yep. It only gets easier, I can assure you. And I see a lot of these, I'm not knocking anybody, but a lot of these part timers, you're working a full time job, calling yourself a business owner, go ahead and quit your full time job. I promise you, you will be better off. If you're putting more effort into your business will be more successful. That's part of being an entrepreneur. That's part of being a business owner. If you want to call yourself an entrepreneur and call yourself a business owner, you need to quit your full time job, put your fullest potential to your business and do what entrepreneurs do.
It's all about risk taking. And the biggest risk you can take is staying in that job and not going out and doing your own thing, because that's where you're in complete control. Whether you win or lose is in your hands. If you have a job, your complete control is in the owner of the company's hands, and they can fire you for no reason, and you're not maxing out your potential of building your business to how you want it to be built. And to me, it's like, hey, I rather run 100% in my own lane and win or lose on my terms than be dictated by somebody under the false guise of safety of a salary. Because I mean, in today's world, you could get fired tomorrow, and you're gonna wish
Exactly.
if you
You
got
could be
fired. Yeah, you're gonna wish if you got fired that you were going all in on your business, and you're at a different level than you are today because you chose to play it safe, but playing it safe is not going to get you ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I quit a six-figure job to do this, so I took a
Yeah,
major risk. I mean, who the hell would have known I'd have been able I mean, obviously, it's a smaller scale than what I was used to doing, but still, I mean, that was the risk I take. That's part of being an entrepreneur. That's part of being a business owner. And everybody goes back to, "Oh, I have a family." Well, I have a family too. If you love and care about your family and you work hard enough, you're gonna do great. You're gonna figure it out. You're gonna do what it takes to make sure your family's fed.
exactly. A lot of times, like I look back and I said, if I didn't make the decisions I made, I wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't
Even if it's
trade.
the wrong one, you learn from it.
Yeah. There's a great quote I heard too. The worst case scenario of you walking your own into your own business is you have to go back to the job where you're sitting at now. Like that's the worst possible situation. So
We're
like,
only running out of time too, so
yeah.
I
So
don't wanna
like,
be on my deathbed and be like, "Damn, I wish I woulda tried," or
yeah,
that's just the way I think, man. I could be gone tomorrow.
it's
Then
true.
what?
I mean, heck, I got bit by a mosquito last year and I almost died. So I ended up with brain injury and inflammation that had me in the hospital for 2 weeks. And I had a business that was able to run itself because I made the risk of going out on my own, made the risk of having employees in place, and made the risk of doing everything that we talk about in this show. And I was able to sustain myself through a crazy injury that I was able to bounce back from. But it took 6 months of me not being able to drive to get over just because of the laws. Like that's nuts. If I didn't choose to grow and get off of the truck and make a business for myself, I would have been completely screwed because I was unable to drive and I was in hospital for almost a month. So
Unless you have really good insurance, you're screwed.
yeah, and even if you have good insurance, how are you going to replace your living expenditure? Insurance ain't going to cover that much, and you look into even like the disability stuff, they'll give you crap. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, my insurance guy the other day was telling me about some kind of stuff where they would completely cover it if something were to happen. So I still need to see what that's about.
yeah. Yeah, I had because I pay for short-term disability, I guess that would be like, oh
Right.
yeah, if you get injured and you make X amount a month, we're going to pay for that. But the stipulations in the blueprint or the fine print was like, unless,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, unless you're out for like 3 months, it's not going to come in.
You better read those little letters.
Yeah, the fine print is like, oh, if you just need
The
coverage for like a
disclaimers.
month, it's not worth it. Or my guy
Yeah.
was like, well, if you tap into it, your premiums are going to go through the roof, so it's not going to be worth it.
Right, right.
So
Well, I feel like we've covered a good bit today, Matt. As always, it's awesome to get on here and try to teach people, let people learn. If not, if they don't learn, it's always good chatting. Obviously, we chat during the week every day, learn from each other, try to help each other grow as competitors, always
yep,
bidding against each other. We've been sending each other leads all week. We've been bidding against each other all week.
I know.
But yeah, guys, if you want a job, reach out to me. Be happy to talk to you, see about teaching you about this business. You can learn from the best, the wash daddy, if you want to learn how to do some washing. Yeah, Matt, you got anything else for these guys? Make sure you follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Yep,
If you're
do it
struggling
all.
in business, go to our.
Yep, we're gonna be powerwashingcoach.com. The as far as downloads go, we're probably going to be at 3,000 downloads by the end of this month. So appreciate everybody supporting us and sharing it with your friends. And these lives help, and we like to interact. So we'll definitely be on the chat as you guys are watching us on Sunday this week. Every Sunday we're gonna be dropping these episodes. So if you guys want to interact with us, make sure to get into the chats and check it out probably 7-8 o'clock at night on a Sunday. But we'll post in our Facebook group. So stay in the Facebook group for the Wash Bros, and we'll be there and looking forward to help out and seeing everybody kill this week as they have in the past and getting ready for spring.
Yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Make sure you follow us on the Facebook page, join our Facebook group. Like Matt said, we're live every Sunday night on our Facebook page, and you can chat with us there.
Oh yeah, sounds like a plan. And as always, we'll see you guys next week and listen to this for the week and like always. So, but if that's it, I'll drop the outro and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace out.
See ya.